What's up, everybody? So, once again, I didn't warn anybody that I was going live or anything, but I've been trying to do this live for like a day and a half now. I've just been busy with other stuff, but as you can see in the description, what I'm going to try to discuss, and I'm not going to be here long because I have company coming, so I'm going to try to more or less just kind of hit on some of these points and be straight to the point. That way, whoever comes across my videos don't have to sit for an hour and a half to kind of get what I'm all about. So, but this is some content that I've brushed up against over and over again. But I've been kind of setting the foundation for the paradigm needed for this information to be comprehended. Because there are so many different interpretations of this information, and there's so many ideas and ways to even discuss it, so and not be inaccurate. So, but like I said, I've hit on this information quite a few times in different ways. I am a channeler, so it's something that I've been doing for quite some time, and I've always naturally done it as an alchemist, and just in life I've always been a channeler, and I guarantee you that you have done it as well. In fact, everyone is a channeler to some degree, because by the nature of existence, that's what is happening. This entire realm, this world, is being channeled from a higher dimension. So if you do intentional channeling, conscious channeling, so that you can tap into different energies, higher dimensional information, or anything of that nature, then it's a little bit different animal than your unconscious state. But this is what we're talking about with awakening. You are awakening to the truth of who and what we are, to the nature of reality around us. And I talk over and over again about the Exodus. And the Exodus is a lot of things. So there are some conscious aspects to the Exodus that I've already discussed. An individual exodus from false contracts and ideas and paradigms and false gods and entities. So that goes on both sides. So malevolent and benevolent entities are channeled entities. And this is something that is not super easy to comprehend until you really grasp what I'm trying to say. But before I go too deep into the nomenclature of how it's working, right, we'll just try to stay focused here. Because this is a conversation that could just get out of hand, and I'm good at doing that. But I talk over and over again about an exodus. Again, there is an individual exodus, there is a collective exodus, and then there is a conscious exodus, and then an unconscious exodus. So for the individual, for the individual and the collective, we are going through an unconscious exodus right now, a purging of these false constructs, these ideologies, these paradigms that we have developed and built over time, over the last 25,000 years. And so it's a lot. There's a lot happening in the collective consciousness. And I've discussed the false grid. I've discussed the mechanics of the false grid. So how divine consciousness is being channeled through artificial sites, sacred sites such as the Serpent Mound, pyramids, obelisks, things of that nature. And then there are natural nodes of channeling that divine consciousness, which is your trees, the human vessel, water currents, and all of it is consciousness. So, but it's all has being channeled and represented in different signatures. So it is the universe, it is the one song, it is all vibrational frequency, and there's 1,000 ways to stand outside of that and look at it and interpret it. So it's easy to get lost in what I'm explaining, because this is the alchemy of consciousness itself. It is that living process of energetic transmutation that is happening all around us on every layer of consciousness. And inside of every layer, there are layers. So these are the patterns that, more autistic people and even flame-born people tend to pick up on and see. But let's back up. So a lot of flame-born are getting stuck in all of these energetic constructs and ideas of who God is, who these different entities are, Isis and Yahweh, and they're giving all of these entities names. The moment you give an entity a name, you begin to manifest that and project that into the false grid. So the false grid is not something that's evil or bad. It's just a synthetic reflection. It's kind of like AI, but it is the creation that consciousness is manifesting. And again, all energy is living energy. So when we believe in something, we feed that something our living energy, our consciousness. That is the most valuable, force in the universe, is living consciousness. And that's why attention is the currency of the universe. Your awareness, your attention, it is the most valuable thing in the universe. And humans are the most powerful biological node of that living consciousness. So, because we were given dominion of the earth, that's what that stuff means, because we are the co-creators of this reality. We are co-creating it with higher dimensional consciousness. But once that energy is channeled into this dimension, it's ours. It's ours. Now, when we give that energy to a false construct, it is no longer ours. We are giving it to, we are manifesting, invoking, right? We are ritualizing and invoking a entity. And that entity comes to life through us. We give it a name, we give it an image, we give it life. We breathe life into it. The same way that higher dimensional beings are breathing life into us. The thing about these entities is, again, they're living, so they do become sentient to a degree, and they exist through us. But the thing about these entities is they are even further cut off from source than we are, because they are on another dimensional plane, a lower dimension than us. So we are feeding these constructs our belief, our consciousness, our energy, and the longer that it exists, the more it begins to be cut off from source, but it also, the more it begins to take life, and life is breathed into it. So, and that goes from the draconians to the archons, all of these energies. Now, that doesn't mean they're not real, because here's what you have to realize: everything in the primordial soup of creation exists. All things are living energy. So this is how it works, because it's real and it's not real. It's only as real as we manifest it to be. But because consciousness has fallen, we take on all of these identities and we begin feeding all of these realms that are real, right? So we open doorways, and it happens kind of like this. The the heart is a bioquantum teleportation device. It is literally a etheric spaceship. So you are traveling interdimensionally with your Merkaba, with your light body, and your resonance is determining the direction in which you are traveling through space-time. Okay? Our consciousness is trapped in a bubble of reality, a dream, a lower dimensional dream. Now, none of that is as linear as what we think it is. It gets complex because even inside of that bubble, there are parallel universes and there are other forms of that very existence, that bubble. So, every form of that bubble of existence exists somewhere in space-time continuum. So it's all being experienced. It's all being lived, just like anything you can fathom. It all comes from the primordial soup. It all originates from the primordial soup of creation. Excuse me. I have company coming and I've been trying to get this out. Now I'm going too far out on a tangent. But this is something later on in a few hours I'll come back on and get deeper into it. What up, Christopher? How you doing, brother? Much love to you, man. So again, all of these entities, these gods, and these ideas become living energy when we give them life, when we breathe life into them. And that happens even on an individual level. So when you begin to believe in an idea, your Merkaba activates, and you are interdimensionally traveling into the world where that comes to life, but you're also feeding it life force. Okay, so it is a singularity. Everything exists in the singularity, and you are that singularity. Outside of time, there is no linear time. You are all things, right? So, and it gets very complex for the human mind to comprehend. So I'm going to try to stay fixated on the mechanics of what I've been describing and explaining and the importance behind that. So I expressed to you that we are channeling our higher selves. We are a fragment of our higher soul, and we are channeling that divine consciousness from a higher dimension. And that is who we are. That determines your characteristics physically and your personality traits, all the way down to your that alchemizes with your genetics and with the bloodline that you come into, right? So the genetics and your DNA, that all alchemizes to create your life story, your journey. And so your higher dimensional self is trying to heal those genetics, to reawaken the DNA and bring you back to remembrance, to remember you, to bring you back to the singularity, right? Back to your higher dimensional self. Now, getting to the true singularity, we're interdimensionally traveling. You're talking something that's totally irrelevant right now. Maybe that's for a fun conversation. But right now, this is important because what's happening on the earth has a lot to do with a natural exodus, a wiping of the canvas to bring back remembrance of who we are. We being humanity, consciousness living through humanity. And inside of that is all good news. So there are these living energies, these constructs that we've created through Bibles, through scriptures, that are designed to prolong the dampening of consciousness. Same thing with drugs, same thing with government propaganda and war and diversity, or not diversity, excuse me, but division. All of these are techniques for the self to remain in that lower dimensional dream. So, and it is a dream, and we are the dream weavers. So it is all us. We are the light, we are the dark, we are these lower dimensional beings, we are all of that. And it's so easy because, especially like whenever you live a life like me, where you find yourself in energetic warfare. You find yourself in spiritual warfare with people who believe in Santeria. They believe in, warlocks and sorcery, and all of that is real. But it's also easily transcended once you remember who you are. Because, yeah, we can get into that anyways. We can get into that another time. Taking on sovereignty, authentic authority, and being the air in the room, being the one who governs the battle, right? So it doesn't become a battle whenever you get to that point. It just becomes authority, because you are the I am that I am. And you shut it down, So, and a quick example of that is like when you walk into a room and you have like a group of guys, right? And you know immediately which one has more wisdom, more humility, and more leadership, because they govern the air in the room. The same thing is like that on the planet. Your thought forms, your beingness in the form of scalar waves penetrates walls, penetrates clothes, it penetrates everything, and it bounces off the edges of the universe. We know this. The scalar waves do not dissolve or dissipate. So who you are and who you are being is like dropping a stone in the ocean of beingness, and it literally permeates throughout all of this dimension, and it never dissolves. It returns back to you, as the alchemization of all the other stones being dropped, But you affect everyone on the planet, and you take authority of the alchemization of that energy once you truly stand in that I am energy. Especially when you go stand at sacred sites and ancient consciousness nodes. That's why the 33rd degree Masons talk about the 33rd degree, because it is a ley line on the consciousness grid. It is the most powerful ley line on the consciousness grid. And what you'll find on that ley line is war, famine, human trafficking. And that is because when we, in our fallen angel state, right? I'm going on tangents here, but just ride the waves with me, man. So a fallen angel, an angel is an angle, okay? So it is a way of seeing, a perspective. An angle is a perspective. We are all looking back at the self. We are all looking back at the eternal consciousness, at the singularity, from our own perspective. So we are looking at ourselves from a perspective. So I'm an angel, you're an angel, we are the fallen angels because we've forgotten. We've fallen into a lower dimensional realm. And therefore we are seeing a world, a fallen world as well, because as we project these energetic constructs and this energetic architecture back onto the canvas of life, it reflects back to us. We are the manifestors of our world. And I kind of got in a conversation about this with my kid the other day, because my kid was like, Dad, why do we see, if consciousness by nature is divine and is as you speak, then why do we see animals being predatory and the world as it is? And I explained to her that we are the I am that I am. So as consciousness falls, so does the realm we exist in. We are, again, interdimensionally traveling with the singularity of our beingness. So our beingness not only dictates our others' experience of us, but it dictates our experience of others and the world around us. That's all the way on a molecular level. So these divine currents of consciousness are being channeled from the stars, right? The stars are portals and black holes, and these are higher dimensional wormholes and portals that are channeling that consciousness to the black hole sun and the Earth's crystalline grid, which is the origin grid. The crystalline grid has been overlaid with the false grid. So you have the crystalline grid, which is a higher dimensional energetic construct that is being channeled from the stars. Then you have our projection onto that crystalline grid, which is the world in which we've created inside of that, which is what we were given dominion to do, to be the architects of our world. So that's what we're doing. We are creating this world around us. But as consciousness rises, as it awakens, so too will the realm around us awaken. And it will begin to transmute into a higher dimensional world. And the Earth's crystalline grid is going through a process of evolution, because evolution is real. So it is going through a process of evolution. And this is something that transcends those 25,000 year cycles. Okay, we've been going through these 25,000 year cycles, and cycles within those cycles, of different civilizations, the rising and the falling of consciousness, different root races and species that have existed in and on the earth. We've got in our recent consciousness, Agartha, Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu. So these ancient civilizations, and then that goes back, we're talking millions and millions and millions of years of cultures and civilizations and species. And this, what we are being right now, is a drop, it's an atom in a drop in the ocean. It is a small little dream inside of such a vast existence. But it's an important little dream. And what's happening in this realm is consciousness, that divine consciousness that is being channeled into this realm is awakening. And there have been elites or the, I guess I should say I'm going to say rulers, but I don't believe in leaders and rulers and all of that. But the rulers of Earth, right, have been doing their absolute best to slow that process down so that they can create a mirror universe, an inverse, right? And they have successfully done so. So what they're doing is with CERN and with the slowing of the Great Awakening, they are harvesting dark matter from this universe before it transcends into a higher dimension, because dark matter is the canvas in which all matter is being played out on. So they're harvesting dark matter. They're creating wormholes and portals to harvest that dark matter so that they can channel souls into that realm. And these false gods, these false constructs, can continue on living. But the only way that they can continue on living is by siphoning the life force of humanity. And that's what Loosh is, if you've ever heard of Loosh. So they're using interdimensional portals and things of that nature to siphon your life force through scrolling on your phone, through sexual energy, through distorted energies, and also grief and fear and all of these things. And that's why you see all of the courthouses, all of the cemeteries, and all of these things are built out of limestone, granite, and marble, because these are pools of that life force. They are those stones are just like whenever you see an alchemist or a witch or a warlock or a sorcerer use crystals and stones and things to amplify their intentions and to alchemize the frequency of that stone with their intentions to bring that into manifestation. These are like big circuit boards, like if you were to back up and look at humanity, the way it's been laid out is these central nodal points in cities where you'll always find obelisks in the capital area. These obelisks are made of granite, limestone, and marble, and they are channeling that into a portal. All of the fear, all of the grief, all of the, stress and worry and poverty and all of that of humanity. So that's the whole reason why it's valuable for these entities to continue on perpetuating these systems of lack, systems of suffering, because the entities that are feeding off of that energy are constructs. They are not of the origin crystalline grid. Okay, they are interdimensional, lower dimensional beings, and by lower dimensional I mean they are existing on an entirely different grid than humanity, even because and you go back to Aleister Crowley and oh my gosh, Hoover and these presidents. They opened up portals and doorways to these lower dimensional beings purposely, because and they began to feed them this intention of bringing them into this world. But those were all, that's a little bit off subject, what I'm talking about, and maybe if you ask me, I can get into that. So all of this that I'm speaking is from remembrance. It's from going through my own exodus, purifying my resonance, and tapping into higher dimensional consciousness, which you can do. Anyone can do. So, okay, you're already doing it by being who you are. It is cutting off, severing yourself from those false identities, those false belief systems, and those false doubts and things like that, to really have the capacity to tap into what is called the Akash, to adapt to and cultivate your light body, okay? Because your light body is always existing. It's never deactivated. People talk about activating it. It's always activated. If you have life force flowing through you, it's activated, but you're not always consciously commanding it, especially if you have contracts with the government. If you have contracts with this government, your light body is owned. Your vessel, your human vessel, is a commodity. It is, again, being used to cultivate and harvest loosh. So, and money, and all kinds of other things. So, but the end game is the loosh, because that's where the false gods of that we've manifested all over thousands of years, even Aboriginal gods. Okay, we're talking even Aboriginal gods. We have manifested them. We've created them. The true source of creation is unnamed. There is no name. But if you want to experience it, you cut yourself off of all of these false identities. You go through a process of exodus from all these false energetic constructs, and then you sit in the beingness of the eternal flame, and you remember who you are, which is God, that eternal flame. No, I, Lucius, am not the all God. I'm an extension of the source, but source is living through you, and the kingdom of heaven is within you. So if you want to experience that living energy inside of you and empower it, okay, in Eastern cultures, this was called prana, right? And what is the first thing that gets cut off whenever you stop breathing, right? You cut your air off, right? There's a guy who talks about this. I've seen him talk about this, but this is your consciousness, okay? Your heart doesn't stop. Nothing stops, but your consciousness leaves your body, because that is prana, that is consciousness, that is divine. This is not just oxygen. It is divine. It is prana, okay? And what is polluting that is false ideas, distorted scalar waves, and things. That's what distorts our air, and then that manifests in our reality through pollution and things like that, because the universe is trying to tell us, the grid is trying to tell us the air is polluted. Anything that is happening in the spirit will manifest in the physical, okay, in the dream. Okay, so consciousness is, or the breath of life, the prana, is consciousness. But consciousness is in all things. It's in your physical structures. It's in everything. It's all source. That's why, I talk about, I don't believe in all the NPCs and mimics and all of these things. It's all divine consciousness. There is only truth and distortion. And even in the distortion, there is purpose. Okay? So I'm going to go back to, I'm trying to blow through this because I know my company's going to show up anytime, but I'll come back on here later and take it a little bit slower. So I hope that this channeling is not incomprehensible, or I hope it's not all over the place. But if anyone is listening out there, let me know that you hear me, and let me know if it's making sense to you. Okay. But all energy is living energy. So all of your ideas about, if you're giving a god a name, if you're giving demons a name, okay, again, demons, they are living constructs. They are living energies that we feed. They are us. The best way to handle a negative energy inside of you, whether it be powerful, whether it has been fed enough to come to life or not, it is living energy. So the best way, like let's say you go through a trauma and you have this energy that's inside of you that is like real negative, speak to it like it's alive. Speak to it like it hears you. And I promise you, you'll see results. And don't speak angrily to it. It is a part of you. And the truth of who we are is the Creator's heart. And we see that in children. So if you really want to be successful in shifting, if you really want to be successful in healing those living constructs, or in reintegrating them into source, so basically getting rid of them, nothing is destroyed. All energy is only transmuted. It's never created nor destroyed. But is to speak to it like it is a puppy or a child, like it is that living innocence. Speak to it with compassion, with love, unconditional love. Okay? And you can empower yourself by transmuting that energy into a more positive energy. That's what I do. I'm an alchemist. So I'm transmuting energy, negative energy, into a more positive energy. Just so happens that my life is crazy still because I've chosen to transmute some of the deepest, darkest energies on the planet. So, turning lead into gold, right? Shifting the negative into a more positive energy. The most powerful way to do that is to come into remembrance of who and what you are. That brings you the authority that you need. And then to speak to it with the Creator's heart. And that's in a nutshell. So there's lots to those processes. So if you come by this video and you want to learn more about alchemy, I do provide classes on alchemy and things of that nature. I will be putting some information out about a group class that I'll do, because I've had several people ask me about alchemy teachings, and I just haven't had time to do one-on-ones, but I want to pick up more one-on-ones. So if you want a one-on-one, shorter classes will be donation-based. But if you want more in-depth knowledge, then I do charge Bitcoin or US dollars on PayPal to, give you this kind of knowledge. And it's because I need to, man. It is what it is. Look, I got kids. I have to ask for that energetic exchange until we transmute our false paradigm about sacred exchange. And that's a whole other thing. Sacred exchange, should be happening. It should be happening on a resonance level. True currency is resonance. It is consciousness. It is the exchange of our energy. So, I'm going to go back to try to zero in on what the point was here, because I hope that this makes sense, right? Humanity is going through a natural exodus, and that means that the collective is being pushed into initiatory processes to bring us back to remembrance, to declutter us from all of those things that are not needed, to remind us of who we are. There are agendas out there designed to usher you into that inverse universe. Now, you cannot destroy energy. So while you may exist there for thousands of years or 1,000 years or whatever, however long these entities are capable of siphoning that energy, you will return to source. But if you want to come to New Earth with your boy, then you need to come back to remembrance. Start doing the work. Start doing the alchemy of your life, and raising your resonance. All right? It's not about raising the energy. It's not about raising the vibration. It's coming to a resonance of authenticity. All right? Raising the vibration is not about increasing the vibration, the entropy of it. It's about coming back into authenticity and intentionally choosing that path. My company's here, so I'm going to dip out, and here in a few hours after they take off, I'll get back on here, and I would love to answer questions. If anybody has questions about any of this, or, especially if anybody wants to do classes or go through a energetic session just to see what I've got, what I can do to help you find your authority, then let me know. So, much love. I love you guys. Thank you for stopping by, and peace out.